Right. There are many other ways of looking for God other than science, and some might actually say better ways. And most of the world's religions believe that God takes steps to reveal himself and reveal the world to us. And I'd like very much to hear from Mahur Krishnamurti, who is a Hindu who is actually sitting in the audience here tonight.
The Hinduism says very clearly, as far as the creation is concerned, it's not just God created the world and just left to itself. God himself became the beings, and the Hinduism strongly believes in God who creates, protects, and ultimately he dissolves. This is the belief of God, and the Hindus worship him with form and without form. The nature is the other face of God, and the Hindu strongly tries to describe the indescribable by worshipping him by various images.
Can I go to Ahmed Didat to talk about the role of revelation?
You see, the Muslim believes that God Almighty, he reveals his messages in word form. And in that word form, this book, the Holy Quran, was revealed through the Holy Prophet Muhammad during the 23 years of his prophetic life. And it deals with these problems more directly instead of guessing. And God Almighty, he reasons with his creation by asking him questions. He said, now, how can you not believe in God? How can you not believe in him, seeing that you were non-existent and he brought you into being? And he will cause you to die and he will bring you back to life again. And to him will be your return. So how can you not? In other words, the way you have been computerized, the way the Creator made you, you would naturally deflect towards God as the magnetic needle does towards north.
Can I just ask you whether your God is the same God as Hugh Montefiore's, the bishop's?
It is the same God, except that in our concepts we differ. You see, the Archbishop, ultimately he will come to making Jesus Christ as God, a God incarnate. Now, the Muslim says, no, God is God and man is man.
Right, can I move on now? Philip Eden, as a Buddhist, what in fact do you feel about this? Because your concept of God is quite different.
Yes, well, as far as Buddhism is concerned, there is rather a different approach. We feel that there is a fundamental reality or truth or ground of being, which of course is in everything and behind everything. I think that many of the followers of theistic religions tend to believe that God is out there somewhere in the cosmos, and that it's necessary for human beings to try and somehow establish a relationship with him. As far as the Buddhist is concerned, that reality is everywhere and in everything, so that the task of the individual is to understand that reality in himself, and that is the methods that are developed in Buddhism to help somebody to come to that realization. We feel that the problem with a creator is that inevitably one must then ask the question, who created the creator? And that, of course, is endless. You can go on and on doing that. So somewhere you have to start with the first cause, and surely the first cause is the universe itself. Man is one way in which the universe experiences itself.
But your God is obviously very different then from Hugh Montefiore's God.
There's a point that Herman Bondi raised about, the fact that many terrible things have been done in the name of religion, and I think it's perhaps important to point out that probably the reason for this is that people for a long time, I think particularly in the West, have had this concept, I'm here and the truth is over there somewhere, and there is a narrow path that leads to that truth. If you have that concept, which I sort of think of as a fan-like concept, then inevitably, if you believe that you have found the right path, all the other paths are wrong, and your task is to force everyone onto that narrow path. Surely it would be so much better if we had this concept of the truth being, as it were, at the center of a circle. We are somewhere on that circumference, and there are many different paths that lead into that truth. And the thing for us to realize, I think, is that the particular path that we choose is very much a personal thing, and it depends on many different factors. It probably depends on the person that we have met that may have explained that path to us, and various experiences we've had. If only we realize, all right, this path for me is the right one at this particular time, but that does not invalidate the other paths.
But are you saying, therefore, that there's only one truth, that we only have one truth that we can actually listen to and experience?
There can only be one truth with a capital T, one reality. And I think the point is that all the great religions have been trying inadequately in their own way to point man towards that truth. But for heaven's sake, don't let's have this idea that there is only this one wretched, narrow path and that all the others are wrong.
All right, can I move the discussion on and say that we've dealt to some extent with Revelation, but other people who are believers, and Hugh Montefiore has, if you like, supporters who don't only argue from design, would say that it's much more about experience and not about either design or revelation at all.
I hope he wouldn't.
And the experience, not Hugh Montefiore, other people would. And the experience is God showing himself to us or us feeling him. And Eric Dowell, you're an evangelist in the Church of England. Would you argue with that?
I think I would a bit, yes.
Yes.
Because I do believe that you cannot prove God scientifically. Science can only deal with the material of this current universe. God is necessarily not of this universe. He's superior and outside of it. So consequently, you can't prove him scientifically or disprove him. But of course you want to go much further than that. If there's a God who made me, I want to know who he is. I want to know what he's like. And of course we Christians believe that he's actually done that, said it for us in the person of Christ. And we also believe that he's alive today and we can know him. So that's what we're here to say, and that anybody can actually say, go beyond just the evidence, whether it's for or against, and say, God, if you're really there, I want to know you because I'm prepared to know the truth, whatever it costs me.
Right, Hugh Montefiore.
I do actually think that religious experience is a very important pointer, and in my book I say it's the convergence of, as I see it, science showing us we're not just random products, probably not just random products, and conscience, and experience. I mean, why is it that between 30 and 60% of people, even in this secular country, lay claim to some form of religious experience?
Pretty Eric.
And one point I'm continually making is that the postulation of God explains nothing whatsoever, because it is consistent with anything that happens. And of course it's consistent with people having religious experience, I mean, or not having it, or consistent with people who say consciousness is implanted. I mean, equally well you can say that sadism is implanted. I mean, whatever is, but you've got to explain in some way that it would have been otherwise if there had not been a creator. And this is what is totally missing, any kind of rational argument.
Right.
I actually wanted to bring up just something of the evidence that is within human experience of just the sheer business of significance. When I say to my wife, I love you, I mean something. I do not mean I, an accidental conglomeration of molecules from some antediluvian swamp, happen to feel a totally accidental attraction towards you, another totally accidental conglomeration, etc. I mean I love you. And if you say to me, but you're just an accident happening to another accident, something inside me says, that's not right. Now, that's not good scientific evidence, but it's human evidence. And I don't honestly think you can ignore it. It's part of humanity. And in the end, what it means is, I mean something because there is a meaning, and there's a meaner.
I must protest against the previous speaker's grotesque misuse of the word accident. I have a wife too, and I love her very much. When I say that I love her, I don't think accident. I don't believe that she came into the world uncaused any more than that I did, or my love doesn't have a cause, psychological cause. This levity in using these words shocks me.
But Freddie, you do think that both you and your wife are the product of an ultimately meaningless process, don't you?
If you mean that I don't think that our existence was planned by some supernatural being, yes.
No, but meaningless.
I do not accept the word meaningless. I do not think that my love for her is meaningless. I think my love for her has a very great deal of meaning. It's very intense.
Has meaning for you,
and
but
for
no
her,
ultimate meaning.
I don't know what ultimate meaning means here.
I'm going to move on because, in fact, we've gone slightly off part of our subject and we haven't looked at other ways of experiencing God. Many people say that there is a different way, a much quieter way of experiencing God. Can we ask Sister Martina Hayden?
I mean, I've listened with great interest to the arguments, and I couldn't help looking back over my own life. I mean, I found myself a Catholic, born in Catholic Ireland. I thought there was nothing else in the world. And my journey has been about finding out all the different aspects of the truth. And I went through all the phases of trying to prove the existence of God, from arguments and learning about the first cause uncaused, and it left me as cold as ice. It just didn't do anything for me as a person. And I think in these last years it has been much more about looking for God within the design of my life, actually seeing design in my life, how somehow I am being led. I mean, even the fact that I join an order which is dedicated to searching for truth is not, to me, an accident. And I hear all the different truths, and I'm really excited about what's happening in science, because I can see that that really is, there's a convergence of truth, and there's so much more humility. I'm not saying I'm humble, as they say, if you say you are, you aren't. But I'm saying that scientists, theologians, people in general are much more humble than they were, say, 20 years ago. I mean, I was locked in combat with Freddie Eyre 20 years ago or so about conscience. I wouldn't argue that way now. I don't want to. I can't match his mind, and I don't think the mind can actually say it all. I find myself going to my heart about religion, and I just discover more evil in myself and more good as I go along. And the revelation of Christ in Christianity helps me there immensely, because I find that Christ didn't talk theological argument or logical argument. He didn't use any of those. He talked about the lilies of the field. He said the kingdom of heaven is like, that's a simile. So for me, God is revealing himself in me, in everybody. You know, I felt really close to the Buddhist gentleman who was speaking over there. I really felt I can relate to that too. I can look into the heart of a rose and it speaks to me. I can also look into the Bible and it speaks to me.
Professor Eyre, are you going to say that that's not a valid experience and that that's not a valid argument?
I think it's not an argument at all. It is a very moving and personal position, which I think is the last to want to criticize.